Hi, thank you for your interest in the City of Berkeley Residential Objective Standards Project. In this video, you will learn about the purpose and objectives of the project, the process and schedule, anticipated new standards, and opportunities for you to participate and provide input. The purpose of this project is to prepare objective standards for new multi-unit residential development in Berkeley. An objective standard is a type of development regulation where the city can verify project compliance without needing to exercise any personal or subjective judgment. Objective standards are often quantifiable or measurable and are available and knowable to a project applicant before submitting an application. These new standards, when they are completed, will be added to the city's zoning ordinance. The new standards will apply to all new development projects that create 2 or more new dwelling units. This includes duplexes and other small multi-unit projects, as well as larger mixed-use and multifamily developments. The city has initiated this project to facilitate the production of new multi-unit housing in Berkeley, including housing affordable to lower-income households. Objective standards are needed in light of recent state housing laws that require the city to approve certain projects by right when consistent with objective standards, and limit the city's ability to deny or reduce the density of any project that complies with these standards. The City Council has referred staff to develop standards to address these state laws and to explore methods to eliminate exclusionary housing by allowing 2 to 4 unit multifamily projects in the R1, R1A, R2, R2A, and MUR zones. New objective standards are also needed so the city can plan for over 9,000 new units and adopt an updated housing element by January 2023. The Objective Standards Project is closely related to other ongoing planning efforts in Berkeley. Work on the objective standards will occur alongside and will be integrated with the Housing Element Update, the North Berkeley Ashby-Bart Station Area zoning amendments, the South Side Zoning Ordinance Update, the citywide Affordable Housing Update, among other city efforts. The city's zoning ordinance currently requires 1 or more use permits for all projects that create a new dwelling unit in any zoning district. Here you can see an excerpt from the allowed land use table for residential districts that shows the use permit requirement for single-family, 2-family, and multifamily development. Use permits must be approved by the City's Zoning Adjustment Board, or ZAB, at a notice public hearing. To approve the use permits, the ZAB must find that the project will not be detrimental to adjacent properties, the surrounding neighborhood, or the city in general. As part of the Objective Standards Project, we will explore opportunities to translate this non-detriment finding and other subjective requirements into new objective standards. We will also explore methods to codify in the zoning ordinance project revisions frequently required by the ZAB or city staff to minimize impacts on adjacent properties. The Objective Standards Project is anticipated to be a 2-part process. In Part 1, we will focus on standards relating to site layout and building massing. Part 2 would address finer grain details such as building articulation and facade design. Part 1 of the Objective Standards Project will establish development standards for different housing types, building massing and envelope, open space, and residential amenities. We expect to bring to City Council for consideration the following items: clear housing type definitions, minimum and maximum density standards, quantifiable standards based on measurements, ratios, and percentages, as well as menus of options to meet certain requirements where appropriate. In Part 2, we will consider establishing objective design standards to address issues such as building modulation, roofline articulation, orientation, entries, window design, exterior materials, and other similar design details. We expect that the Part 1 standards will fall into 1 of 3 buckets: standards needed for the Housing Element Update, standards for projects with 2 to 4 units, and standards for projects with 5 or more units. In the first bucket are the zoning ordinance amendments needed for the housing element update. Amendments may include minimum and maximum residential density for many of the districts that allow residential development. Depending on the outcome of the housing element update process, the Bucket 1 amendments may also include rezoning to allow residential development in new locations and changes to building envelope standards to increase allowable densities for multi-unit projects. The second bucket contains standards for multi-unit projects with 2 or 4 units, sometimes referred to as missing middle or the plexus. These standards will address the city's referrals to end exclusionary zoning and to explore opportunities for missing middle housing in the R1, R1A, R2, R2A, and MUR districts. These standards must also comply with SB 9, a new state law that requires cities to allow 2 dwelling units on a single parcel in single-family zones. As part of this work, we expect we'll modify existing standards for uses and features that require an AUP or use permit and add new standards to address important issues associated with this type of development. The third bucket will contain standards that apply to projects with 5 or more units, including larger multifamily and mixed-use development along major corridors and in the downtown area. These standards are needed to comply with state housing law, including a number of laws adopted in 2021. We expect we will modify existing standards for features that currently require an AUP or use permit, and other new standards needed to address important issues in Berkeley, and to translate subjective non-detriment criteria into objective standards. The schedule to prepare the new objective standards is driven by the housing element update schedule. State law requires the city to adopt the updated housing element by January 2023. In the fall of 2021, we will review background information and analyze recent development projects. The city is conducting a public survey and will hold a public workshop for the housing element update during this initial task. In winter of 2021-22, we will begin drafting the standards and prepare development feasibility studies to analyze these standards. There will be additional opportunities to provide input as part of a self-guided tour, and we will hold a second housing element workshop on the evening of January 27th. A joint subcommittee of the ZAB and Planning Commission will meet to provide feedback to staff and consultants on materials as they are drafted. Draft zoning ordinance and general plan amendments will be available for public review in late spring or early summer of 2022. At the third housing element workshop, we will ask for public comment on the draft amendments. In the fall and winter of 2022, the Planning Commission and City Council will hold public hearings on the draft amendments. To meet housing element requirements, the goal is to adopt new standards by January 2023. Over the next year, there will be a number of ways for you to learn about the Objective Standards project, review project materials, and provide comments. As mentioned previously, these include housing element workshops, a self-guided tour, online input, Planning Commission ZAB subcommittee meetings, and Planning Commission and City Council hearings. Thank you again for your interest in the Objective Standards project. We hope you found this video informative. Please note that this video was re-recorded and posted on December 14th, 2021 to remove language stating that the project would include development of a daylight plane standard. The project team will develop options for objective shadow standards that will be shared with the City Council and the public for consideration. For more information about the project, including opportunities to review materials and provide comments, please visit the project website. To contact City staff with questions or comments, or to sign up to receive project updates, please email the City's housing element email address shown here. We look forward to hearing from you.